Hello everyone, it's Kathy here, and today I'm going to share with you different flowers you can create using Kaisercraft's Flora Gerbera die. There are different flowers you can create and they're really easy to do. For this first flower you'll need to cut 2 large petals using art foam, and what you'll do is with a hot iron melt them very carefully, and as you can see I've got my iron set up and I'm using a wooden stick to hold it against the iron, and using a household sponge and a flower shaper I'm just pressing the petals, pressing the die cut into the sponge to shape it, and I'm going to repeat that with the second die cut piece. This doesn't take long, I'm just holding it for about 3 seconds, and you can see that the flower is making a really nice curved shape in the petals. And then I'm going to do that same step. I'm just placing it face down into the sponge and just pressing down in the center, and that's just reinforcing the curve of those different petals. And then I'm just placing them, layering them on top of each other. Once that's done, you can see the really nice curve that you can see in that completed flower. With a hot glue gun I'm now going to attach those 2 pieces together, and the hot glue gun that I'm using is a low temp one so that I can safely position that with my fingers and press that into place. This doesn't take long to do once you've got all your pieces cut. And then just to finish off the center I'm just using some bling stones and attaching that with some hot glue because of the foam. And you can use different sized pieces to finish off that particular flower that you've created. So just with a little pokey tool I've safely transferred that onto the center of the flower and positioned that into place, and that's the first flower that we've made using that Gerbera die. This is the second flower that we're going to create also using that die, and you will need to die cut 1 large petal and 1 small petal from that particular die. And once again, using the hot iron we're going to heat up those pieces, and again just using a wooden stick, holding that on the iron for about 3 seconds, allowing the art foam to help mold the flowers. And I flipped the base petal, and then I'm just flipping it over and repeating that step again, and that just gives it a little bit more volume. And now with the top layer I'm going to heat that against the hot iron, and using that wooden stick I'm going to heat the petals. You can see them making that really nice curved shape, which is what we want. Placing that face down and using the stylus, the flower making tool, just pressing that down in the center. Just to help reinforce the shape of the flower I like to layer them both together and press them down onto the sponge, and you can see the shape of the flowers already started to form. Next we're going to join them together again using hot glue, just placing a small amount of glue in the center and pressing them into place, making sure to stagger the petals just so it makes it fuller, and again adding some more hot glue to the center so that we can add another stone just to finish it off. I find that using the pokey tool, I don't know what the proper name is for it, it just helps you to position that into place and just get the positioning right. So that's the second flower using that 1 die, and now we're going to make the third flower, and you can see in that photo just what the sizing is like. Again you'll need 2 petals, and we are going to have 2 large petals die cut to create this flower, and you can see how beautiful they are, the art foam pieces. And we're going to use the stamen, the middle part this time, and we'll need 3 of those. So for the flowers that I've used, the tealy color is actually called lagoon, and the pink flower that I've created, I've used tulip. So again, using that large petal, heating it on the iron and using the sponge again to shape it. Sometimes the pieces like to stick against each other because it heats the foam, so you just move them with your fingers. But you know, nothing in nature is perfect, and so you just I don't mind if that happens, but it's what your personal preference is. So now I'm just heating that second petal using that same technique, which you're probably getting really good at now. You can really see the shape of those petals, making that really nice arch, and pressing it down in the center once more. So the techniques are quite the same, it's just how you just manipulate them to personalize them to what you want. Now for the little centerpieces, it's easier to use another little tool just to help you, and I'm just using the back of the stick just to shape the center, and you're going to do that 3 times the same way. Now to attach all our pieces together, again using hot glue and pressing it in the center and staggering the petals as before. The next part, putting the center in, is a little bit fiddly, so I'm using a hot glue with a fine tip just so that I can really put just a tiny little bit of hot glue and pressing that in with my fingers just to put that into position, and trying to remove some of the strands of glue as I go, which can be a bit fiddly at times. And again, putting some in the center of that first piece. You might need to use tweezers to help you position things into place, and what I'm doing is I'm just pressing that second centerpiece in that first piece, and now for the third piece I'm just rolling it up with my fingers just so that it makes like a little round ball shape, so that it's going to go inside the first 2 centerpieces that we've already just glued. And this just helps to make it fuller and also a little bit rounder as well, just to make it look a little bit more realistic. And again, using tweezers helps you to manipulate that, and then just using that to also press it down into place. And that is the third flower using that same die, and I'm just fiddling around and pulling some of the strands off, and that is the third flower, and that's what it looks like up close. Our next flower is a little bit different, but again using that same die, and it's a little bit more loose and ruffly. You'll need 3 of the large petals to create this flower, and there's a little bit more work involved. So what I do is I get my petal, and we're going to heat it up again on that iron, and again holding it against the iron for about 3 seconds. And this time, instead of pressing it on the mat, we're going to roll it. So I'm trying my best to roll it up so that all the petals are up the top, and then I'm going to hold it in my left hand and then twist the top bit with my right fingers. So what we want to do is to create some crinkles into the top of the petals, but we're keeping the base still. And this is a little bit tricky, and once it starts to reduce in size, it becomes a little bit easier. And so you can roll it like this, as you can see, with a few fingers. Sometimes I swap hands, sometimes I then I swap over because I try to get a better grip. And then once that's done, I put that down, and you're going to do that for all 3 petals. Once we've done that, we carefully open them up, and you might want to use a shaping tool, but you can also do it this way, which is carefully stretching the base of the petals one by one, just a little bit, but trying to preserve the wrinkles at the top. This is a loose flower, and it's meant to be a little bit wrinkly, but we want to have a little bit of shape in the size of the petals, and so very carefully trying not to rip the petals as we go, going around, and then you can use the bottom to shape the flower as well, just to try and get rid of some of my nail marks that I've left, and then just giving a little bit more shape by pressing into the centers as well. So do that for all 3 petals, and I've just finished the last one. So now I'm going to stack them on top of each other, just so that you can see what the flower looks like. And just to help it stack easily, I like to just press both sides together. And the next step is gluing all 3 layers together, and once again just making sure to overlap the petals so that they're not directly overlapping each other, trying to stagger them as much as possible, because we really want it to look as natural looking as we can, and just pressing down into the centers. And because this layer is a little bit thick, sometimes creating that hole in the center, because we've got all this foam plus the glue, makes it a little bit difficult. So sometimes poking is a little bit difficult, so I suggest doing that, as well as using a thicker stick. And then we're going to insert some stamens through the center of this. So I've threaded up some stamens through some wire, and I'm just going to pull that through, and then that flower is just about complete, and you just wiggle around until you're happy with the way that it looks. And that is the next flower that we have done using that one die, and it's a very different look to the other 3 flowers that have previously been created. And this is how it looks like in a project that I've created. Our final 2 use the smaller pieces of the die, and you'll need 2 pieces die cut, and this time I'm using the tulip art foam. And same process, we're going to heat it up onto the iron, and you can see the petals are curling up, creating a really nice shape. And using the sponge, I'm going to place it face down, curled side up, and press down in the center, because we want to create that curved up shape. And I'm going to heat up the second petal in the same way, holding it again for about 3 seconds until I see enough of the petals curl up, and then placing it on the sponge, just manipulating it so that I've got enough room to put my stylus into, or should I say the flower shaping tool. And then just placing them on top of each other and just reinforcing that shape by pressing it down. So next I'm going to attach those together and use hot glue and staggering the petals, and that completes the base of the flower. Next we're going to poke a hole in the center, because we're going to be inserting some stamens, and that also is a little bit thick, so I've just reinforced it with another hole. So to create that, what I've got is I've selected some small stamens, and I've got my wire, and I just fold the stamens in half, wrap the wire around the stamens so that it hooks, helping me so that I can just insert all of that through the center of the flower. And what I'm doing is I'm going to pull it through, but not all the way through. The strands are still up, and I'm sorry that I'm not right in the center of the frame at the moment. And this bit I found a little bit tricky. This part is a little bit fiddly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pearl center, and I've got the pearls here from Kaisercraft, and I'm getting the largest one ready. I'm just putting that on the pokey tool, ready to go. And what I'm going to do is split the centers so that they are forming like a starburst shape, and going to put some hot glue in the center, and then I'm going to attach the pearl on top of that so that the stamens are shooting out and the pearl is in the center. And I'm just pressing that down with my thumb just to secure that into place. And then what you can do is just gently pull the stamens around so that you've got the shape that you desire. So that is another flower made with that same die, but this time we've only just used the smaller petals from that die cut, and it's very pretty. So it's another size option for you if you are wanting to make some nice flowers. And just to secure that into place, I just put a bit of glue on the back, as you can see. So it's a really pretty flower. And now we're going to make the other version of that. So this time we're going to use 2 of that die cut from the smaller petal from the die, and we're going to heat it up. And this time when we put it on the mat, we are going to press it so that it is going down as before, and we're going to flip it over. So this is going to form the base, because we want to have it so that it cups facing up. So previously in that first smaller flower, it was curving the opposite direction. So this time we're going to mold it so that it is in a cup shape going up. And so now I'm just going to reinforce that by placing them together and pressing down in the center. And now, as in that previous flower, the construction of the flower is exactly the same. So this is how it looks on a card, and it looks really, really, really pretty, complemented with the other flowers. So thanks so much for stopping by, and have a great day.